what you are telling me, Mercy, is that those houses that collapse, what will end cheap?
You go cheap,
Uh-huh.
you go home.
Hello, my safeguarding families around the world. My name is Jeff from Safeguarding Watoto, and today I am in the 254 Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, and I've come to meet a wonderful professional, a lady that is quite experienced, an architectural by profession to be precise, and I'm just going to ask her to introduce herself so that we can get to know who she really is and what she does. So, Mercy, karibu sana.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
My name is Mercy, Mercy Mwangi. I am an architect by profession. I'm registered architect by Borax. Borax is the body that governs architects in the country. That's Kenya. Yeah, I've been practicing architecture for the last, say, 10 years or so. Yeah, locally. So I know a thing or two about local architecture.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for accepting to come and talk to us today.
no worries.
So, in a nutshell, what is architecture all about?
Architecture. Architecture is wide. It's very big, and the most unfortunate thing is that most people do not know what architecture is or what architects do. That is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing in this country,
Okay.
that they don't know what architects do. So I'll tell you in a nutshell what an architect does. An architect designs for you. That's the part that people know, that
Design.
we design for
Yeah.
you and do drawings for you. That's all they think we do. But in reality, architects, there's construction industry, and the architects is the lead of the construction industry. That means we're the ones who govern and manage construction for you. So if you have a building you want to come up with, so you approach an architect. So an architect will, the first thing we do is listen to you, what you want or what you would like. And then you take us to your site, we have a look at your site, we see what you have, and then advise you if what you think you want is possible based on what you've seen on site.
Yeah.
And then after that, now we start the design process. The design team, we lead the design team. The design team is inclusive of the architect, the engineer, the QS, that's a quantity surveyor. Yeah, under engineers, you have a couple of them. We have the services engineer, we have the structural engineers, we have the civil engineers, and all these have different roles in the team.
Okay.
So the architect is the lead, is the one who controls everyone, because we are in charge of the design.
The design.
Yes. So
And that is who you are now.
that's
the
who I
Mercy
am.
that we are talking today.
That's
So
who
my
I am.
people, you are in safe hands today. Kujua na kuelewa issues kuhusu manyumba, designs.
That's just a part of it. Yeah, that's the first part of architecture. After designing, now we go with your design to site.
Right?
So we go to site, we implement the design for you.
Yeah.
Still, the architect is the one in charge. So what we do, we talk the client through it. We discuss, you tell me if you have, most people come and tell us, we just want the drawing, we already have a fundi. So there are those ones who do not know where to start. So those ones we hold their hands and we take them through step by step. There are
Yeah.
many ways of doing it. You could have your fundi, we could get we go through sometimes a tender process where we get you a contractor
Yeah.
who must be registered by NCA, that's the National Construction Authority. We get you a contractor, we get you the best deal there is, based on, and you know the problem is most people, they think the best deal means the cheapest.
Yeah.
That
It
does
doesn't
not-
work
it
that
doesn't
way.
work that way. Cheap is expensive.
Cheap is expensive
Especially in
indeed.
construction industry, cheap is expensive. So we get you the best deal, which means quality, in relation to price, yeah, and even timelines, because in construction industry, time is important. It's very, very important.
Yes.
Time costs you money.
Indeed.
So it's very important to watch the time. So we get your contractor, we govern or manage the contractor for you. We make sure that you do not have to go to site rushiana maneno with the contractor.
Yeah.
We are the ones who police the contractor for you. We make sure that he's doing what he's supposed to do and following. If he's NCA certified, then he knows how to read the drawings. He knows how to follow the specifications.
Yeah.
Because we specify even the material, even the last nail that you're going to use in that house. We specify it.
Okay.
The kind of foundations you will use, we specify for you. So we make sure that we govern the contractor, follow our materials, follow our designs, make sure that you get the best there is. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, our viewers, just to let you know, tunafanya hii interview outside, kwa hivyo mkisikia kelele, buses are passing, the birds, this is natural and we're in a natural environment, so we like it because sometimes confined environments zinaweza kuwa shida. Fresh air is important, so hopefully you understand. Mkisikia saa zingine you are getting some, surroundings, stuffs that are happening around our surrounding. But anyway, so in a nutshell, today we want to really base our interview today about children or people with needs, and particularly on issues about housing. I just wanted probably you to tell Kenyans, because we are in Kenya today, and Africa in general, about are there policies that are in place that considers people with disability when buildings are started from the foundations?
Actually, in Kenya, we follow a building code. There's a building code. That is the one that governs construction in the country. And it's not from the foundation. Actually starts from design. The building code basically dictates to us, kind of like it's guidelines, directing the architect on how to design for different spaces. It does not specifically, of course, people with disabilities fall under the many categories that fall within the building code. So that one is a blanket in general, covering so many other parts of the building, including fire safety, including the type of foundations, the distance between the building and the boundary wall. All those are stipulated in the building codes. So in there, there are also things that are stipulated, policies that are stipulated on how to design for people with disabilities.
Okay.
Yes.
And in regards to, when architectural starting to designs and all that, are every houses, whether be it like sort of towers or big government buildings, do they strictly follow those codes? The reason as to why I'm asking you this, Mase, is here in Kenya, I'm aware of most government buildings that there is no access to wheelchair. You have to go through stairs, and if somebody is on a wheelchair, that becomes very difficult. You may go and find some houses that don't have a lift, and that is going to be a challenge for somebody with disability. So how does the government ensure that this doesn't happen? And if there are buildings like that, what is it that you guys do to help?
Actually, this is usually, the design is divided between, you start with the design.
Right.
You come to me, you tell me what you want. I put it on paper. I give it to you. I show you, you like it. You like it very much. And then we take it to council, get it approved. And I have followed all the regulations that are required by the building code. That is why the government, when you go for the approval, the government will look and confirm that you have followed all the stipulated policies and the regulations for the construction. But now the problem comes in when we go back with you as my clients in that meeting room, and we tell Mr. QS, the quantity surveyor, come here and tell us this building, how much it's going to cost us. You're given a figure and you want to collapse. You're like, no, that is way too high. That is maybe double what I was planning for. what I had budgeted for. So what do? We start removing the things that you as a client think are unnecessary, the things that will cost a lot of money. And to be honest, the disabled persons accessibility to the building is one of the things that cost.
Critical.
They cost a lot.
They cost a lot.
Yeah. For instance, a ramp, it's very expensive to build a ramp. It's actually expensive because most of it is done in concrete.
Right.
So that's quite expensive. And don't forget, it takes space.
Yeah.
Getting a ramp to move for a distance of 1 meter, you need 10 meters of space to be able to rise 1 meter.
Right.
For people with disabilities. So you see, it consumes space, it consumes a lot of money to construct. The other option is mostly lifts. Lifts are not cheap.
No.
They're not cheap to buy, they're not cheap to maintain. That's maintenance, that is power consumption, that is repair works. They're not cheap.
Right.
So what most clients do, they look at the drawing, they look at the costs that have come, and they look at what we can eliminate. That is, what is making this cost go this high? And unfortunately, in most cases, those are the things that are usually the first to be eliminated. And the reasoning comes in that what we'll do, the units on the ground floor will be reserved for the people with disabilities. That's always the explanation. In most cases, that's usually the explanation. The units, if it's a housing project, the units on the ground floor are reserved for the people with disabilities. So when these buildings are being sold to potential buyers, we always ask and follow up if you have a person with disability, so they can be allocated one of the lower units. But in all honesty, it's not enough.
I definitely agree with you. It's not enough, Mercy, because personally, if you ask me, it is necessary for us to believe and to know and to accept that, sadly, people with disability are with us and are going to continue, unfortunately, to be born.
Yeah.
And I think it is not right to assume costs can cause them to look like as if, things are being removed or eliminated when a building is being, constructed just because of them. It might not look good. It might not sit very well with people with disability. So, but I mean, having said that, at least the ground floors are reserved for them. Is a little bit of some assurance, but probably not good enough. What is it that we can do to help change that narrative? Because I think it's something that people really do need to think, because
with time,
it is critical.
With time, I've actually come to notice a difference in pattern.
Right.
That most of the clients that are coming in now are very sensitive when it comes to universal accessibility for the buildings. Yeah. Most clients are insisting actually on having these lifts and the ramps to ensure that everybody is able to access every part of the building.
Yeah.
But there's still those ones who are adamant that that the cost comes first and there's nothing really we can do. All we can do from our end is sensitize people on the need and the importance of having these buildings accessible by everyone.
Yeah.
And also we could maybe the government could look into the implementation part of the project, because I told you what we do is we design and make sure we meet the criteria.
The criteria.
And then we get them for approvals, and we get the approvals because we have met the criteria.
Right.
They're required. So, but when you go to implement it on site, what people implement on site in most cases is different.
Maybe different from what was approved.
So what the government could do is there's something called an occupation certificate. And periodic inspections. So periodic inspections are inspections from the government officers to your to your development during construction.
Right.
So these officers can come and make sure they actually are supposed to come and make sure that confirm that you're following the design and you're following the required standards. So I usually feel like here we are a little bit, we are failing a bit, maybe because we do not have the proper policies in place, or maybe the workforce is not enough from the government, as in the officers are not as many as the buildings that are coming up at the same time. So
Right.
they're reinforcing those policies and those requirements sometimes becomes a problem. So maybe, yeah, if we got those inspections, thorough inspections from the inspectors, from the government inspectors, that would help ensuring that these buildings have complied to all the requirements. And also, there's something called an occupation certificate. An occupation certificate is a certificate you get to give you the go-ahead
Right.
to occupy a house, a building, anything like that. Yeah. So this certificate, you're not supposed to occupy your building without it.
Right.
You get it from the council.
Okay.
The same people who give you the approvals, they're the same people who are supposed to give you the occupation certificate. So what you're required to have, among other things, is a signed document showing that the inspector used to come to inspect your building
To follow
during
the building
construction.
during construction
Yes,
phases.
yes.
Right.
And there's also supposed to be another one showing that there's an inspector who has come to inspect and confirm that the building that was approved
Is
the
what
building
was
that was built, and that everything that was approved has been implemented.
right. So
Yes. So if that was reinforced, as in like with total seriousness, I think some of these things would actually be implemented.
so in a nutshell, the government really here is failing us. So kind of we can say they are failing us, because if that is what needs to be followed,
Yeah.
but there are officers that actually are not doing their job properly, because if a design has been designed and has been accepted and that need to be followed, but somebody is not going to follow to ensure that a ramp has been done, lift has been put in place, and somebody decide to slash a few millions to build a 15 building tower without a ramp, that is probably going to have some 20 or 30 people with needs that are going to have difficulty. So somebody somewhere is failing us. How can we educate our people to let them know that it is important to think about people with needs, because not everybody is able the same?
Yeah, I think
I mean the officers.
the officers. I'm sure they have their own training. I'm not sure
Right.
what training they get, but I'm sure they have that. I'll actually mention and say that it's the same thing that says security starts with you.
Yeah.
I think that should be the same thing. This isn't, as developers, you should realize that you're in a community that has disabled people.
Yes.
And if you choose to develop this kind of building, how are you catering for the disabled people? You can't just do
Assume.
a building and assume that they don't exist.
Everybody is
They are
able,
there.
because unfortunately we are able differently.
Yeah, we are able differently. So I think it should start with an individual.
Right.
Before we even start pointing fingers at the government, it should start with you. I think sensitizing the community about the needs of the disabled,
Right.
it should be the first thing we do. Because if everybody is aware and acknowledges and appreciates the difficulties that these people go through,
Yeah.
then you would not even consider removing a lift because it's going to cost you 2 extra million. Yeah. So if we start by teaching everyone, sisi wenyewe, we police ourselves, I think then there's nothing much you can do about what the government is doing. They know their job, they
Yeah.
know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if we do our part, it makes their job even easier. Because if it's corruption, we are the ones who start it.
Yes.
If you're not corrupt, then how are you going to say that officer is corrupt?
Indeed.
If he asks you for money and you don't give money, then you see. So you start policing yourself. You start by educating our community and everybody out there about their needs and the importance of having their needs in our minds when we are designing
What
and
it-
building, then the rest will be easy. That's my take on it.
Asante for that. So it's critical, my people. We get what Masa is saying. We sensitize the community, the people around us, the officers around us, to understand that everybody is able differently. Kama mtoto ako kwa wheelchair, ama mtoto anatembea na clutches na nini, ama mtu hana uwezo ya kutembea kwa stairs, let us ensure we do not compromise the standard of the house by slashing a few millions tuondoe ramp and tuondoe lifts. We are not even touching the interior of the houses where the toilets needs to be adapted for disabled people and all that. We are just talking about even these other just general things. At least waweze kuwa wanaweza kuingia kwa nyumba. So thank you, Mercy. So my next question was, right now, having gone through the CBD, I'm looking at big long towers of government buildings. These are not even private. These are government buildings here in Nairobi City, or rather even in other big cities like Mombasa, Kisumu and all that, that don't have this accessibility for people with needs. What is it that can be done now to ensure that can be rectified?
Existing building, as I mentioned, ramps take up a lot of space. So I would actually think, from my opinion, that the best solution would be lifts. We actually have, before we used to have lifts where you have to have a hole under the building so that it can support the machine that pushes the lift up. But with the current technologies, we actually have hydraulic lifts where you just come and place it, that can just say you don't have to provide for the whole building. You can just call it the disabled or the differently abled lift to be used by those people who really actually need it. It can be a simple lift. If they are there, there are very many. It can be for 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. It does not have to be so complicated or so expensive. Such lifts are there. We just take it, buy it, and it's just placed on an existing building, and it's able to help the people with disabilities get to whatever floor they need. For ramps in existing buildings could be a bit challenging because of the issue of space. Ramps take up too much space, and they're also expensive. If you look at the cost, maybe comparatively, the cost for a ramp could be very competitive compared to the cost for a lift. Yeah, it's very, very competitive. Of course, the lift has the extras of the maintenance and the running cost, but with the current constraints in space, especially in the CBD, I don't think a ramp is a viable option. So I would actually advise just the lifts. They are there. There are very many lifts available that you can just come and place it. It does not have to carry many people at the same time. It can just take 4 people at the same time. Restrict the use to just the people with disabilities, and then your building is compliant.
That's wonderful. You are hearing this firsthand from an architecture who is saying if you have buildings that are of course a few years, 10, 15, 20, 30 years old, and they are not adaptable to supporting people with special needs, disabled people, it is critical you listen to the advice that Mercy the architecture is telling us. Just put in a lift that is going to support people. Just look at how easily you can help people that are disabled or that are able differently to be able to access these towers so that they can also feel that they are part and parcel of a workforce, because a lot of them are able to work, but if they cannot get to their workplace, it's going to be very difficult.
The biggest problem comes in when the client, who is a developer, one, they sometimes they do not hire qualified professionals, because there's always the thought that professionals are expensive. So you go and get somebody who's going to tell you nitakuchorea na this amount of money, which is maybe a quarter or a third of what I was asking for, and you're like sinikuchora too, and then they go the chora, and then you have your fundi in the village who told you we did this, we used these tumors for that other building there, we used these tumors for that other building there. Now you trust them, and you go and buy those tumors and do what they are asking you to do because they have experience.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what professionals do. Professionals will not charge you cheap. Let me tell you that. Come openly and tell you. We're not going to charge you cheap. We're going to be expensive. And it's because of the value of what we are going to give you. We are going to make sure that, one, you get a design that actually works. I've seen designs that don't work. You go to a building and you're wondering, what happened? The door, you open the door, it's hitting the toilet. What I was saying is that professionals, most people are afraid of professionals because we are said to be very expensive. I'm honestly going to tell you, these are not cheap. But it's because of the quality of what you're going to give you and the service that you're going to give you. We're going to make sure that your house does not collapse, your building does not collapse.
So hold on. So what you are telling me, Mercy, is that those houses that collapse, what will end cheap?
You go cheap, you go home.
You go cheap, you go home.
You go cheap,
And
you go home.
unatengeneza a 5, 6, 10 story building.
Yeah.
And in 3 years, inaanza kuinama.
I don't see 3 years. I've seen there's a building. You see, when we started, I told you we usually go to site.
Yes.
We don't just go to site just to look. We just don't go to site to see where your site is. So that I don't know what. We go to site and study.
Study the site.
We study the site. And then we recommend to you the professionals that you're going to require to really do a thorough study of your site. Why do we need the professionals? We need professionals, the engineers I mentioned, the different kind of engineers I mentioned. There are those ones are not civil engineers. The civil engineers will manage the water, the drainage of your site.
Yeah.
Ukijenga nyumba, hii maji ya mvua inatoka hivi, isikuje kwa nyumba. You know, sometimes it comes, it sits on the foundation yako, your foundation weakens, your building collapses, or it starts developing mold and giving you funny diseases. We also, so that civil engineer will manage that water on your site to make sure that you never have a problem with water on site. We also have someone called a geotechnical engineer.
Right.
A geotechnical engineer is going to study your soil type. They're going to carry a thorough soil study to understand the kind of soil your land has, so that they can advise the architect on which, and the structural engineer on which foundations to use.
Okay.
There are those buildings, depending on your soil, they will use a raft foundation. There are those ones who will use a strip foundation. There are those ones which will use many different types of foundations based on the type of soil that you have on site.
Okay.
So if you do not get a geotechnical engineer, how will you know the kind of foundations that you're going to do? You're going to assume, kwa sababu kwa neighbor walifanya strip, hata hapa kwako tufanye strip. You do not know what was going on your land 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Maybe there was a quarry.
Na wewe hujui.
Somebody alichimba akatoa mawe akafunika na mchanga. Na wewe, you do not have time for a geotechnical surveyor. And you just come and put a building on top. Your building itasink, itashangaa. It will collapse. Why? Because you do not want to hire geotechnical. You hire a registered architect. They will give you all this list of the people that you require for your project to safeguard.
To ensure
is to safeguard your project.
The project.
Yes. I can tell you they are not going to be cheap, but I can tell you the amount of money they are going to save you is way more.
But most importantly,
way more.
The lives.
And the lives.
The lives that will be saved.
No, you know, most people care about money. First of all, the money. Because, let me tell you, as a registered architect, as an experienced architect, you know, my job is to design the building. The structural engineer's job is to design the structure. As an architect, I have the knowledge of the structure that the engineer is going to design.
Right.
So if the engineer our designs, which in most cases they do, if they offer to design
I am going to call this the engineer and tell him, from my knowledge, I know this beam can be smaller, there and can be maybe flatter, and trust me, we'll remove that beam there, we'll remove that extra column there, we'll remove that. The building's stability is still safe. The engineer will do their calculations and they'll still confirm that that building is fine. And trust me, I'll have saved you very many millions just by doing that. But how do I get to that point? I have to get to that point through schooling, through experience, through certification by the board to make sure that I am able to do that. You take somebody who is not that qualified, the engineer will come or any other the professional that is supposed to be under the design team, and they'll do their own thing. And since your architect is not experienced enough to know, they'll just let them. So unaingia kwa nyumba, unapata column beams zimepita at the wrong places, and you, since it's your house and you're feeling very bad about it, you need to spend more money trying to hide.
To hide what is wrong.
What is wrong? And it's because you did not have the right professional. So the first step is architect. Get a qualified registered architect with experience. Then that one will manage your affairs kabisa, and you'll be fine. The engineer, the registered engineer, structural engineer, their work is to design the structure. They will tell you exactly the sizes of the tumors that you need. They'll take those. They'll ask your fundi to take those tumors for testing to confirm that they are the correct quality of tumors. They'll confirm during construction that huyo fundi ametumia chuma 4 ama 5, are they the right tumors or not. They'll take the mawe, the simiti for testing to confirm that they are of the right quality. And the required strength.
Ngoja. So my people, I think mnasikia vile Mercy anasema. Kabla hizi nyumba zitengenezwe, usichukue tu fundi gagari, usichukue tu mtu loko kwa sababu nataka kusave a few million alafu uleta watu 200 kwa nyumba uanze kuwa billionaire. Lazima hao watu wa from the beginning wakuje wa test kila kitu. Kutoka mchanga, site, kila kitu. Kama nyumba hilo unataka kujenga, wa kuadvise. Usijaribu kwenda kujenga nyumba ya 5 story in a place where ile nyumba ambayo hiyo mchanga hapo inaweza kuhold ni 2 story. Ukijaribu hivyo, the house will sink. What Mercy is telling us, ni lazima kila kitu ikuwe tested. Kutoka chuma, mawe, mchanga, kokoto, cement, kila kitu ikuwe tested kabla nyumba haijatengenezwa. Site iangaliwe, ndio hiyo nyumba ikianzia tunajua tuta save not only pesa but lives, because hiyo nyumba haitakuja kuleta shida 3, 4, 5 years ago. Zingine hata the last 6 months zikishaanzia
They collapse during construction.
Zina collapse.
Yeah, during construction. You know, those tests go on even during construction. Si fundi amejenga amesema hii ndio simiti inatumia. Anaambiwa chukua hiyo simiti peleka kwa lab. It is tested to confirm that it is of the correct. You know, engineer pale akidesign, alidesign anajua the correct size, the correct strength ya hii simiti inafaa kuwa fulani. So anaambia fundi peleka itestiwe. The government labs, it is tested in the government labs or any other private labs, and anakuja na results. The engineer, a qualified engineer, will be able to study those results and tell you, is this good enough? Is this going to withstand? Is it? So let me ask you, Jeff, if all those tests have been done, do you think a building will collapse?
Very unlikely.
What are the chances?
Kwa hivyo inaonekana kuna watu wanafanya mambo ambayo hayawafai. Wanapita shortcuts. So my people, please, for us to safeguard children, for us to safeguard young people, for us to safeguard the community, we must make sure that we follow the right procedures. Let's follow the correct procedures so that buildings that are being built are done properly. Don't go cheap. Ensure if it is your house and you are a business person, you are into rental homes, ensure there is a lift. Ensure you are not trying to, squeeze money for yourself. Ensure there is a ramp. Look for good architecturals like Mercy, for them to give you a better overall way of how you can save money and ensure that your house is fit for everybody, including people with needs. So, and it's critical because when we do this, utapata biashara and your house, because nyumba zako zitapata wateja and they are good, they are looking good, you are being looked after, but also the community is safe. Sisi, we are all about safeguarding, ensuring everything is safe. Where our children are living is safe. Children that have needs are able to access places, are able to access workplaces, are able to access things in the community, and we must make those provisions available for them. We are not going to go cheap. So tafadhalini, let's not go cheap. That is what Mercy is saying. But maybe for you that is there and is saying, what has Mercy done? Where is she coming from? Mercy, please let these people know, what are some of the designs that you've done? What are some of the things that you've done, so that they can reference and they see you are talking from a professional perspective.
Okay, currently, for the last 7 years, I was working with a company, an architectural company, a quite big architectural company called the Planning System Services. I was among the team that designed and supervised the construction of a big school called the M-Pesa Foundation Academy. That is just one of those ones we did. It was a very big school. Construction cost it had very many buildings, and it was a state-of-art school by the M-Pesa Foundation. That's the one that I can actually proudly say that I've worked on, because it's a big school and it's state-of-art. It's really good and it's complete.
Yeah.
There are other phases that are ongoing, but the main phase is complete. The other buildings I've worked on, they're these just regular small buildings, apartment buildings here and there. Yeah, and recently I've been involved in construction with art, as in you can build with art. We've actually been doing some research and building some houses with art, with stabilized earth. We've been using some buildings we've been using stabilized earth blocks, and others we've been using rammed earth. I don't know if people can maybe Google and see buildings done with rammed. Mchanga, udongo, tumekuwa tukijenga na mchanga.
Udongo.
It's a sustainable way in an attempt to reduce the carbon footprint.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of concrete produces a lot of carbon emissions during production. So we are looking for construction methods that will reduce the carbon emissions, making sure that at least
we are protecting the environment.
Yeah. So we've been exploring building with earth, stabilized earth, and some in areas where the soil allow it, we are using unstabilized earth. That means ni udongo tu vile iko unamwagilia maji, unabonda unatengeneza nyumba. And they are very nice houses. I know most people think it's weird.
So nyumba za matope za ushago. We are talking here of the state of the art.
Yeah, very
so,
good.
Tutaweka clips.
I will show some clips here and there. Yeah, so that's what I've been looking at of late. It's just a line that I've actually been interested in. Yeah, and other than that, I do furnished apartments, I do interior design.
Okay.
Yeah, all those.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It has been wonderful speaking to Mercy, a professional that really is in the building industry. Na tumeshukuru sana kusikia ya kwamba hizi vitu they just don't happen. It is actually people who try to cut shorts. And unfortunately for those other things that hatuwezi kucontrol, kama government buildings zile ambazo zimeshajengwa zamani ama hazijakuwa repaired, what Mercy is advising us is that the government can be requested to waangalie vile wanaweza kusaidia, so that disabled people or people with needs can start to have access. Otherwise tunataka kuwa na inclusion, because watu wakishakuwa excluded, it becomes a society that is not right. So Mercy, as we wind up, what can you tell people? How can we ensure, in a nutshell, just briefly, how can we ensure that we safeguard everybody, from homes to people not dying to building not collapsing? What are the main points that people need to know and adhere to?
Maybe before I go to that, I'll mention
Right.
One of the other challenges that people have that are causing the collapse of buildings is most people don't know where to get a registered architect.
Right.
It's actually happening. Most people don't know where to get this registered building. They don't know. So all they know is that they are local fundi. All they know is the guy who used to do drawings for street food. And the big
biggest challenge we have is that as a profession, we have laws that govern dictates that we cannot advertise.
Right.
Architects cannot advertise. You will never see in the news or in an advertisement in the TV advertising for an architect or a registered architect. No, the problem with that is that most people down there, out there in the rural areas, do not know where to find us. So they use the local fundis that they get, and that's why you see a series
So
of
please tell us,
problems.
where can they find you? How can they know where to find architects?
Architects. Actually, the biggest task is on the government
Right.
in sensitizing and educating people on where to get these people. Because we are all over, but there we are many. We are quite a number.
Right.
We are quite a number, but people do not know where to get registered architects.
So how can they go about to know where to find you?
We have website. We have a website
Right.
from BORAX. That is the Board of Architects, Registered Architects and Quantity Surveyors. If you just say it's BORAQS, BORAX.
Borax.
Yes, BORAX. Google that.
Right.
It will give you a list of registered architects and registered quantity surveyors.
Yeah.
And then you can check if your guy who's doing your house is in
Is
that
among
list.
that list.
Yes.
So the list
If
of
they are
these
not,
people are there.
It's there. It's there. If his name is not there, you can even just search. What does he call himself? This and this and that. Just search. If you do not see his name pop up, then there's a problem.
Because already the person that is about to build your house is not qualified.
Not qualified.
And that's a problem right there from the base.
There is a problem.
Okay.
And that's the problem, because if you have a registered architect, they'll make sure they follow the courts, they'll make sure they provide for the disabled, they'll make sure that they provide for everybody, and they'll make sure that you do your building right, they'll make sure that you follow the instructions, you may follow the construction rules, you follow the materials, you follow the testing, you follow everything. Let me tell you, an architect might cost you a bit more than the other person, but what they're just look at it this way. This is my building. It's going to cost me, say, 100 million. How much are you willing to put aside as insurance to safeguard your 100 million? Because an architect is insurance for your 100 million.
Your 100 million. Otherwise, it might just disappear in a few months.
Yes. You use a few. You decide to use kidogo so that you safeguard a few millions, but you use the 100 million. That's how it is. You use a bit more right now
and keep it safe,
and you keep your 100 million safe.
My people, I hope mnasikia the analogy. Hakuna haja ujaribu kutumia pesa tu kidogo ukijaribu kupata mingi, and then you end up losing everything because of a few thousand that you could have used to employ a professional. So let us be sensitive. It must start with us. That me myself, hata kama mimi ndio nataka kwenda kwa nyumba na niko na mtoto ambaye ako na needs, I start first by thinking, does my child have access to this house? If the answer is no, I'm not going to that house. There is no point for me to go into that house if my son is not able. Nitakuwa namchukua kwa stairs and ako na wheelchair. No. So let us be accountable, so that then, and accountability comes with following the right procedures, using professionals, architectural professional, quantity surveyors, vile Mercy anatuambia, so that our buildings can be safe. I also pray that the government are going to make this work easier and follow the right procedures. Those officers that are supposed to ensure buildings checks are done must follow that. There is no shortcut, because this is where we are losing life. When an officer is supposed to go and check that the design is being followed, that the plan that is, the plan that is going for, is being followed, and they are not. They are cutting shortcuts of mtu anaenda anapatiwa kitu kidogo, anaambiwa nyamaza, tumetoa rift na tumetoa ram. No, if that is your job and you are held accountable for that, if that building collapses, you are going to jail. So I think let us have that heart. Tujue kwamba tuko na watoto, tuko na community ambayo we need to safeguard each other, and Kenya will become a beautiful place. Mercy,
Yeah.
anything else that you can share with us that can help us before we wind this beautiful interview today?
I think I've said everything. The only thing I've not said is I'm currently working with my husband. He's also an architect.
Okay.
We are
Oh,
running.
you're blessed.
We have a company called the F1 Architects. Yeah, we do buildings, we do construction management,
Yeah.
we do interior design. We do all that.
Please look into the camera and let them know that this is what you do, so that if then you give them your contact, so that if
Yes,
they want
yes.
to get in touch with you,
Yes.
your numbers, your social media handles, and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So what I'll do right now, I'll just give you my number. You can get in touch with us on 0723 948 113 or 0721 363 282. You'll get hold of Architect Mercy or Architect Daniel. Yeah, that's everyone architects. We have wealth of experience wherever it is that we were before. So we are if you're with us, you're in capable and
You are safe.
capable hands. You're safe. Yeah, and your buildings are safe.
Thank you
Yeah.
so very much, Mercy.
Yeah.
Asante sana for coming today to share with us and to educate us about safety in reference to architectural, na vile watu wanaweza kuwa katika safe buildings, na vile tunaweza ku safeguard our community. So guys, my safeguarding families, if you are out there and you want to have a building, whether it's a tower or a project, Mercy na Daniel are good hands that unaweza kuwatumia. Their numbers are there, umepata. So I think, like we've said, use people that have a wealth of experience so that usikuje uregret baadaye. You know, it is wrong kufanya kitu alafu baadaye after 10 years ukute, ama 5 years ama 3 months ukute hiyo kitu imeharibika. So please, these are professionals that have a wealth of experience. Unaweza kusikia they've got 10 years of experience between, yeye and the husband. So use them, and let us be in safe hands. If sio lazima watumie, if you want support and help, I believe you guys can also help people.
Even advice.
And advice.
Even advice. If you have an existing building you need advice on, we can always advise, and we can help anyone who comes to us.
So there you go, my people. So let us ensure that we keep not only our children, but us as a people and as a community safe by using the right people, contacting the right people, getting the right advice. And Mercy and Daniel and other professionals that are qualified is the way forward. Thank you very much, Mercy. I really appreciate it. And I pray that you can continue to grow your company so that Kenya can be a safe place. We want buildings that are strong, that are done properly, and that are not going to collapse. And if you are one of those people ambaye unapenda kupita chora shortcuts, tafadhali stop that. Use these professionals ili nyumba yako ikuwe safe na tuache kuangamiza maisha ya watu. That's it, guys. Hopefully you will benefit from this video. Please, if you receive it, tafadhali share with somebody so that they can understand about easy issues are safe homes, manyumba, architectural designs and all that. And most importantly, wapata easy contacts za Mercy na Daniel and other people that can help them to be safe. So thank you very much, my safeguarding family around the world. I pray that today you have really benefited from hearing Mercy, the architectural professional who's got a lot of wealth of experience. And I pray that you're going to use her services and other professionals so that you can benefit by ensuring that any buildings or any projects that you want to start are safe and secure. Until then, I'm Jeff from Safeguarding Watoto.